Well, I don't know why this thing is so close to my face, but we'll have to deal with that. I just put a video on our YouTube channel, and I suggest that you watch the whole thing. You go take a look at it, and there's a short on it that was unintentional. Go watch the 21-minute version. It's going to have a lot of things that you're going to want to listen to if you're a martial arts instructor or student. But I'd like for people who are teaching, especially those of you who own schools, those of you who think you, I don't want to say think you're doing the right thing, because you're doing things right, but you're missing out about 99% of what people actually need to learn. You're teaching what they want to learn, and I know that you have to do that. You won't have any students, you won't have a school. But you have to teach at some point what they need to learn. Now, I want to say the old school, that's cliche. They did it in a different way. I don't think they reached us quite as quickly as maybe they should have. They didn't reach us as deeply, although they did dig at our emotions. They did dig at our character. They did require things of us that probably we thought were silly at the time. Now, the problem with that is if the student doesn't remain with you for that number of years, and I'm talking about maybe 20 years, they'll never learn that. And that's probably the intention. They don't want to give it to just anyone. They don't want the people of a certain ilk to be aware of this training or this aspect of life, because martial arts training, and a lot of us are immersed in it pretty deeply. I mean, I have a lot of students that train, and a lot more than maybe their spouses would like. And I have some that do just enough to keep the fire burning. Both are reasonable to accept. The amount of training that you need for the part that's not a hobby or a passion. So I have some students, they want the history, they want to know the who, what, why, where, when, how, not just the how. And that's great. I love that part. I spend a great deal of my time learning that continuously, that all that part. I spend another portion of my time every day learning another part which isn't in the classroom. This stuff is all in general, in life, necessary, not for everybody, but at some point for everybody. For me, it's a big part of every day. At least most days. There's some of this goes on. And that is my cat. Actually, my daughter's cat. And its name is Sia. And its brother's name is Ace. Ace and Sia, basically, she named him for Ace Ventura, the pet detective. I'm kind of embarrassed to say I let her watch that. But, so anyway, off the cat. This part of the training that we don't do in the dojo, and I wrote a small little thing about the dojo mindset being broken. I don't think it came out quite the way I intended it to, but here's the gist of that, and here's the gist of the video I made, which you won't draw from if you don't watch the whole thing and you're not intelligent. here's the gist of this. Emotionally intelligent, pardon me. The training that you do in the classroom is right of bang. So that means they threw a punch at you and you did whatever. And of course you do shadow boxing and you do stretching and jumping jacks and whatever training that with the medicine ball and all that shit. You do that too. I'm not saying that's not important, but most of what you do in the dojo is related to right or bang. The punch is being thrown. If not, at least you're certain that it's coming soon. And you're justified, always. So if I'm in the school and I throw a punch at you and I hit you in the chin, that's justified. Even if you were supposed to parry or sidestep or block or whatever. If you got hit, you made a mistake, not me. If you blocked my arm and it left me a bruise, you're still justified in doing that. Because I threw the punch with intentions of having you parry, sidestep, or block, or get hit. And so all of that's justified. You go out in your daily life, that punch, although emotionally it's justified, maybe even morally it's justified, it might not be justified when you go to court for that. So you want to make sure that you've done everything possible to avoid throwing that punch. And I mean, leave if you need to leave. I'm not saying run away from anything. That's, people say he pulls a knife run. I don't subscribe to that. And people say because you're fat and you can't run. Well, that might be partially true, but I have been known to run even of late, even in the full weight of all my duty gear. I've had the occasion to run. Even the length of a football field and more. So I can run, I just don't fancy it. I used to run 6 miles a day every day, mind you. The idea here is, though, that when we train, we don't include that part. And you should include that part. And if you can't include that part or don't know how, well, that's why we have OTX. We have OTX, which is a adjacent training method to REMA. It's not even, I mean, it's not part of that, but it's adjacent. In other words, if you have all the tools, you could do this other thing. But if you don't have all the tools, you can still do this other thing. So it just helps if you have some tools. It's like, I had a thing, my wife, she backed the car away from the curb, and I had pulled it in myself, and probably when it parked, and I've parked there for 11 years, when it backed out, it hooked on the curb stop, and it pulled the front of the car off. The whole left front of the car was like hanging off, and I mean, it's wrecked, bro. I mean, so I came home and I looked at it. I see if I can, at least get it, to where it's not going to drag, just roll under the car. So I got my garage and I looked for tools, and I really didn't have any of my tools. Don't know where they are. Some are at the school. Some are in the vast void of my daughter's bedroom, and some are who knows where. Anyway, so I got the tools I had at hand, and I tried to work on the car. I didn't have anything to pry with. The screwdriver I had was one of those 4-way things, so it doesn't have and I didn't have a proper wire cutters, that kind of thing. Angle gutters. I had a pair of needle nose and a pair of regular pliers, not applicable to this. I needed to remove some things, and so couldn't pry the thing into place. So I stepped back and I thought, damn it, without these tools, I can't do anything. As I looked and observed, thinking, what can I do with what I got? I realized I had enough tools. I had that 4-way screwdriver. I was able to take out 2 screws, and I had a pair of needle nose, and I was able to get out another, I think they call them a push rivet, push pin, I'm not sure. So I got that out, broke it, but got it out, and relieved some stress on the front of the car, and it allowed me to pull that part of the body down, and it was, I'll put a picture later, and ease it back in there, put the screws back in, push pin's broken, car's fixed. Car doesn't even look like anything happened to it, apart from driving it for 160,000 miles. So that's on the road, and I thought about that when I went to the class to teach that night. If I didn't have, if I would have had all my tools, my big screwdriver, this thing's showing my face, my large screwdriver, I have I think a 30-inch and a 24-inch and an 18-inch and a 6-inch screwdriver, and I have all these things. I probably would have pried all that and forced it into place and broke it. Probably. It would have broke maybe the headlight or blinker lens, and probably scarred the plastic bumper that's on it, and the cowling and all that. I would have probably banged that up. But I didn't have all those tools with me. I just had really even less than the bare minimum of tools. I had less than the bare minimum of tools, but I was able to do the job much more effectively, cleanly, without them. I think maybe that's the lesson. Punches and kicks, elbows, knees, throws, sweeps, strangling, joint breaks, joint manipulation. Those are all tools to kill the ego. What if you don't have all your tools with you that day? What if your foot's in a cast and your wrist is sore? How are you going to solve that problem now? That might be the lesson.